something that you can maintain. And I think that has become a gap, especially with the API tests.
Also, I think if you take the pain from the fact that those are constantly running and from the flakiness, then the fact that they're running once before you just want to merge the PR, that's not good. What's gonna really hurt people.
So it sounds like the room is more in favor of keeping make check and like generally in favor of having a longer running job that would serve as a global gate and run and be run on request basis as opposed to be triggered automatically instead of as compared to a more radical approach of compartmentalizing and making everything or most everything optional. Is that the right is that the right sense?
I think as a first pass, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still want to see make check be just quick unit tests and take 15, 20 minutes at the most. If you want a gate that takes a lot longer, then we can move it to Truthology and link it into the suites of other components so that you know that failures are going to show up when they do their QA.
Okay, so the timing aspect is still, I guess the timing is still a problem because like 20 minutes is not going to cut it even for the API job and even for some of the other, I think for some of the other tests, for some of the other unit tests as well. So it's not just RBD that is kind of special in this regard. RBD is special in the sense that it has like several configurations that get run, but they are run in parallel, and the configuration that we care about the most is also the one that runs the longest. So unfortunately, we can cut that. And if timing is the problem, and we have a 10 to 20 minute limit imposed on make check, then we would still do what I've what I described with the RBD check earlier.
So I guess the question is whether you want it to gate non-RBD changes. So if we just filter it out of make check, then maybe it's not a problem.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm not too attached to the global gate aspect, but if the project as a whole feels that the kind of the global gate, which is which isn't too restricted, right? Which like I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any time limit on it, but it should, like if it's something that gets run once or hopefully just a few times on the PR, not on every push, but just at critical points when you want that feedback or right before merging. Hopefully it's going to be just a few times. And I would say that like in other projects like OpenStack or Kubernetes, that can take like hours. It's like 2 hours, I think, is not uncommon. So if we could shoot for, I don't know, at least an hour instead of 10 minutes, then that would be a kind of more reasonable limit for this kind of global gate where everything is included. If we still want it to be fast, even though it's going to be run just on a few occasions, I think these are kind of incompatible goals that they just run against each other fundamentally. There's no way to make it kind of global and satisfactory to every component, and then say that it needs to take 10 minutes. This is just not what we have today.
True, but I mean, we do have the option of moving things to Toothology and requiring other components to run those.
Yeah. So again, this is what I. So it sounds like we don't have consensus here with regards to, in particular, the time aspect. And the time aspect, at least to you cases, seems to still be more important than the kind of preserving the the kinds of tests that are run today. And I do agree that that there's no way for like RGW change, for example, to break an RBD test. So all of those executions on the RGW PRs would be more or less useless. But this is what you get with a global gate. Even if you trim it down to like 15 minutes, still 90% of those 15 minutes would probably be useless to an average RGW PR. So it's just a question of whether you're happy with 15 minutes or an hour or 2 hours. And
Yeah,
I think I got my I got my input. Thanks.
So just on the timing aspect, one of the main reasons that I think it should be short is because I would like to see more jobs of make check run. Like currently we're only building Clang, but I would like to do a Clang build and a GCC build and have like static analysis and sanitizers running. And if the checks are quick, then it's a lot more practical to do that. But scaling from where we are now, I don't think is tractable. But that's definitely more of like a long-term vision of mine.
Do you envision like unit tests to also kind of get run repeatedly in these different configurations? For example, with like static analysis, that's a build step, right? That's a purely build, that's a build only thing. But the analyzers, like and the various sanitizers, those do you envision that to be extended to unit tests?
Yeah, I think it would be very valuable to run all of the tests under sanitizers, maybe one for thread sanitizer and one for address sanitizer.
Well, but then if the check is constrained to 10 minutes to allow for the various configurations, then I don't think you would be able to like cover to have like a reasonable coverage with the sanitizer enabled, because you simply wouldn't be able to trigger all the code paths in that time for a big enough component. Is that not a concern? And you just want a kind of sanitizer-based smoke test as opposed to a sanitizer-based, the thing that covers as much as possible?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely don't think that we're aiming for 100% code coverage from make check. But yeah, I mean the main point is that like if make check is cheap, then we have the option to add more tooling to test under more conditions.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. If it's cheap, then you can multiply it as opposed to, yeah. All right, that's a good point. Well, I got my the answers that I wanted, I think. So If there's nothing else on this topic, I suppose we can move on.
Anything else from anybody? All right, we'll go to the next one. This one is about playing tidy work in CI from Yuval.
Hey, yeah, thank you. So this is kind of related, especially to the last couple of minutes of the discussion. And the idea is to run static code analysis on the code that is part of the pull request, so that some obvious problems and issues that could be detected will be caught at that point. There is a PR that is kind of ready for that. There was quite a bit of effort put into trying to make it run as fast as possible. For example, not to require a rebuild of everything and so on and so forth. And also because of the danger of false positives that is very common with static code analysis, we chose only a very small subset of issues, and we tried to do an upfront cleanup of the code from those issues. So we ran that against, especially, or at least the RGW and OSD code base, to try to find false positives and mark them as such in the code, and also real issues that those checks were finding, and fix them. So in theory, at least for RGW and OSD code, running those tests should go clean, which means that if the test fails, then it's most likely that the newly introduced code is causing the issue. So first, I would be happy to hear feedback about the idea of running Clang Tidy. Again, Clang Tidy is, in some places, is used to impose coding standards as how the code looks like. I don't think that this is the most important thing, but once we have the tool as part of the CI and part of our tool chain, then we can gradually add more stuff to it as once we get an agreement on what needs to be added there. The first checks are really something like use after move and things like that are very, in most cases, cause real problems in the code. So that's the kind of initial thing that we looked at.
Is there any specific feedback that you're looking for?
Well, mainly to see, so there was some pushback from the infrastructure team saying, okay, our Jenkins machines are kind of too busy anyways, and we don't want to add any more things. So even if it's something like, I don't know, something between 5 and 10 minutes run, depending with how many files are in the PR to be checked, then we don't want to add that. So, well, when we run the Clang tidy check against the code, that we did find real issues, real bugs. So I think it is valuable, especially the checks that we are introducing here, and trying to see if there's an agreement with the community that this is something that has value and therefore should be added to our CI system.
Yeah, I remember the Ceph leadership team discussed an earlier version of this. I think at the time it was requiring another build of Ceph first, and that was the really expensive part. But I think there was general agreement that it's a good thing as long as it doesn't take too long. So it sounds like a lot of optimization went into it since.
Yeah, again, it's still a couple of minutes, and it depends. Like if you're gonna if you're gonna try to merge 100 files, then it can take, I don't know, 20 minutes or so to go through them and analyze them. So the basic thing of taking what's needed from the previous build, zipping it, copying it, although the basic overhead is pretty short now, it's a couple of minutes. But overall, if you have a very big PR, then that can take a while.
I think it proved itself in at least the initial run that we had, and the first time those tests ran, they found really important issues, and I think this even if it costs a half an hour, it should be part of the test.
Well, right now, looking at the PR, it seems to be limited to certain paths, like under source RGW. I suppose that's where you performed the the cleanup that you mentioned, where it was run manual and then fixes were applied so that when this is enabled, it doesn't cause payload. You mentioned this was done for RGW and OSD, but the PR seems to be limited to just RGW. Do you have a sense of like what would it take to, or let's say how many fixes were identified in RGW and OSD, just so that we could maybe estimate what would it take to enable it globally?
I don't remember exact numbers, but my guess would be something like 10 PRs probably or fixes across the RGW and the OSD. There were probably more that were false positives. Those are just code comments to make sure that we don't keep on seeing them. But I think there was something along the line of 10 actual bugs that could cause crashes or undefined behavior with the code.
I think it sounds useful, and especially since we brought up some ideas to cut down the time. It may not all happen at once, where the time is cut down from tests and this is added, but I think it seems useful to add in any case.
Okay, that's great. So can we take that to like the infrastructure team and discuss it there to see how we move that forward?
Sure. There's the meeting this week. I think you should see it on the community calendar.
Okay, thanks.
And so the goal would be to add this as a required check for merging pull requests.
I don't know, this is the new thing, so I would say at the beginning it should not be required, just to get a feel of the feature and not kind of block the entire team if there are some issues that we haven't thought about. But after a while, I think this could be a required test.
Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. And in the past, when we were working on making the ARM 64 check required, for instance, it was failing every time. So there was a lot of work to stabilize the test first before we made it required. So I would imagine something similar would need to go into this, where the test should be passing for like a week before we before it's made required. But I understand that would be done later after introducing it. Cool. I think if the next step is to bring it to the build team, any other thoughts or comments?
I know that Dan Mick has been involved in review there. Does he have any objections to it, or are we just looking for kind of agreement from leadership or leads?
His issue was with the how much time it takes to run, and I think we've took that down quite significantly. And the other issue is to see that the community still or thinks that this is something valuable. So those are the two inputs that he was waiting for.
I think from this, you have that checked off that the community finds it valuable.
Okay, thanks.
So I guess the next step could just be to add a non-required check that still only covers source RGW, and then find ways to expand past that.
Makes sense to me. Well, I'm not sure.
Strange things are happening now to Jitsi. I was phone out.
Yeah.
For me, it's okay, but is it okay for everybody else? Any feedback? Okay, thanks, Celia. All right, I think if there are no more comments there, we'll go to the final topic here, which is RGW tentacle release planning. Not sure who added that one.
I did. I've never done release planning before, so I apologize for any mistakes. I would just like to go through and make sure that everyone agrees on what is going into Tentacle for RGW, and that we think it will all get in when we think it will get in. So my datalog async write hole thing is about to.
I lost audio for Adam.
Me too.
Adam, I don't know if you can hear us, but we lost your audio. Maybe some kind of connection issues. I'll try pinging him. Okay, we'll give him a second to rejoin. Hey, Adam.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
All right, so as I was saying, I've never done release planning before, so I apologize for any mistakes. I was about to say my datalog async write hole thing is about to merge. CRC64 NVMe checksum work. I believe that has in fact merged. Casey or Matt, can anyone confirm?
Yep.
All right. Restore object. Now, as I understand that some of it is merged, there is more coming. Do we know what the nature of the more is, and if we think it will get here by mid-April?
I personally don't. I think that would be a good question for Somya.
Is Sumya here? Or we can check with her later? Or we'll check with her later.
It doesn't look like we have a quorum of RGW folks here. Might be better to follow up in a RGW meeting or on Slack.
All right, good idea. Let me just go through the rest just to make sure. Yuval's bucket logging work, is that, do we think that can get in by April?
I think we lost Yuval also, but his
Right.
the feature is merged, and I think we just merged a follow-up to handle policy for it. So
All right,
I think
D4.
it's in a state that we could support for the release.
All right. And we can check on D4N later, I guess.
D4N has a massive feature branch. Matt has been reviewing it. It hasn't merged yet. I don't think it's going to be something we can support for the T release.
All right. The bucket logging probably is supportable. Copy object encryption, we would really like that, but who knows? And full object dedupe, do we have any idea about that?
I'm not sure. Yuval has been reviewing that, so you could see what he thinks.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone know of anything that they really want to get in T but haven't? All right, thank you. Sorry about that. I will follow up more at the stand-up tomorrow and on Slack.
All right, sounds good. I think that was our final topic on the agenda. Is there anything else that anybody would like to bring up? All right, if not, we'll end it here.
Actually, there was one thing I was going to bring it up at the CSC, as I've sworn a terrible oath to Dan Mick, that I will not let this go, that I will not let this languish further. Currently, we are running on a very old version of OpenTelemetry CPP that has multiple issues. It was blocking our upgrade to Noble, and I fixed that. It is also going to be blocking our ability to run on CMake 4, so we can keep nursing it along, but we should in fact really pull up to a newer version of OpenTelemetry CPP. The one issue is that there are engineering decisions that need to be made that I don't feel qualified to make in order to do that, and I was wondering if I could ask for assistance from the community in that regard. Namely, currently we're using the Jaeger exporter, and the Jaeger exporter goes away in new versions of OpenTelemetry CPP. So we actually need to make a decision about replacing it. And there are two OTel exporters, one using HTTP, one using Google RPC. I don't happen to know whether one is strongly favored by the other among DevOps people, or we should support both and have an option to configure, or what. If I could get some help making those kinds of decisions, then we can start moving forward on trying to upgrade upgrade our OpenTelemetry submodule.
Yeah, for the Jaeger tracing stuff, that's kind of a cross-component effort, and so no team really owns it. I know that Deepika was involved initially. Yuval was involved as well. I think they were both on the tracker issue that you just referred to. So
yes,
maybe try to get their opinion on it again.
All right. But does anyone else in the broader community have preferences strongly one way or the other? I can bring it up again at CSC as well. All right, I can also ask on the mailing list and on the ticket. I just wanted to use the opportunity to see if we could get feedback of some sort.
All right, I'm not hearing any voices, so yeah, I think that makes sense to send an email to the dev list. And then there's also the Ceph Devel Slack channel that you could use as well.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Any more comments on this topic or about anything else? All right, sounds like we're all done. So we can end here and see you all in the next coming months. Thanks, everyone.